The 9 most mysterious and shocking archaeological discoveries captured on camera that stunned scientists. Scientists, who we often think of as rational, logical people, always looking for ways to solve problems, actually have some very big fears. Can you imagine what might worry them? The answer is a lot of things. It's true. At the top of the list of their fears is nuclear war, a threat that not only scientists but all of humanity faces every day. But that's not all. Next is climate change, an issue that is becoming more and more serious and threatens the survival of this planet. It doesn't stop there. Collisions with asteroids are also a concern that scientists can't ignore. However, there is another fear that keeps them living in constant anxiety and dread, and that is the strange mysteries continuously brought by archaeologists and explorers. These mysteries not only spark curiosity, but also make scientists seek help, because sometimes they go beyond what can be explained by modern scientific theory. And now you will witness these mysteries right in this video. Let's explore and understand the things that make scientists fearful. The 4,500-year-old beauty who took another person's bones to the grave. Recently, the tomb of 2 individuals from England shocked researchers with its bizarre burial items, including the bones of other people dating back thousands of years and crafted into musical instruments and tools. The first tomb belonged to a woman from Windmill Field, Stockton-upon-Tees. In addition to her skeleton, the tomb contained the skull and limbs of at least 3 other people. Testing revealed that the deadly beauty was 4,500 years old, while the bones of the others buried with her were about 60 to 170 years older than hers. Previously, a lavish grave of another man was discovered with a series of luxurious burial items, including stone and bronze axes, bone plates, ivory, a stone-tipped object, and a musical instrument made from the bones of other people. According to Professor Joanna Brooke from the University of Bristol, UK, these findings suggest that a strange, mysterious culture existed among certain groups of people in England, which had been passed down for thousands of years. Although human bones were considered burial items, they were also kept in the homes of the living, buried beneath floors, and even displayed. This practice was most common during the Bronze Age and provides clear evidence that these ancient people not only did not fear bones like we do today, but also preserved parts of their loved ones' bodies as treasured objects. In this way, bones would be transformed into burial goods, serving as a form of honor and remembrance. Red coffin in China. In 2003, an ancient tomb on Turkey Mountain in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, China, was excavated by a group of archaeological experts. Countless mysteries were revealed as soon as it was uncovered. Instead of the traditional black color typical of Central Plains burial customs, this coffin was an unusual red and lacked the customary epitaph. Noticing this oddity, archaeologists carefully observed and discovered that in addition to the pure red color, the coffin also featured intricate patterns and carvings. The tomb was initially identified as belonging to the Khitan people, and it was determined that the red coffin contained the body of a woman. The woman's face was covered, in contrast to the typical attire of women from the Central Plains. Additionally, the body was dressed in 11 layers of clothing, which were already decaying and difficult to make out. When the final layer of clothing was uncovered, archaeologists were astonished to find a region of black mercury-like water surrounding it, thought to be used to preserve the body. After combining these mysterious discoveries in the tomb and reviewing the history of the burial area, scientists concluded that the tomb belonged to Princess Yulu Duoge, the sister of Emperor Taizong of the Liao dynasty. In 913 AD, to consolidate political power, Emperor Taizong planned to abolish the traditional Dan system and establish a lasting regime similar to the Central Plains emperors. This move was fiercely opposed by many tribes, leading to a revolt across the kingdom. Yulu Duoge took part in the uprising, opposing her brother's decision, and was eventually imprisoned and died in captivity. It is possible that because she was a rebel, Emperor Taizong only constructed a simple tomb for her, rather than following the customary burial practices for princesses. Given that most ancient tombs discovered so far have belonged to Han people, finding tombs of minority ethnic groups like this one is of great significance, deeply impacting the culture of minorities in China as well as Chinese culture as a whole. 10,000-year-old skeleton, found at the bottom of the ocean. In the Americas, a well-preserved skeleton was recently discovered in Chanhol Cave, near Tulum on the Yucatan Peninsula. This skeleton, known as Chanhol III, belonged to a 30-year-old Paleo-Indian woman. Paleo-Indians were the first people to inhabit the Americas. Experts believe they crossed Beringia, the ancient land bridge connecting Asia and North America, during the Ice Age more than 12,000 years ago, and then migrated to Patagonia in South America. The research team, led by Professor Wolfgang Stinisbeck at Heidelberg University, determined that Chanhol III lived at least 9,900 years ago, possibly even longer. Based on structural analysis, the woman had a round head, large cheekbones, and a flat forehead. These features resembled three skulls also found in caves in Tulum, but were unlike the long skulls of Paleo-Indians found at other sites. The remains in Tulum suggest that the first people to arrive in the Americas may have come from different geographical regions, or that a small group of early settlers in the Yucatan Peninsula lived there long enough to develop a new skull shape. Both possibilities indicate that the history of the early human settlement in the Americas could be more complex and began thousands of years earlier than the traditional view suggests. The world's heaviest 2,400-year-old coffin. When it comes to Chinese archaeology, it's hard to compare the grandeur and opulence of ancient tombs. Many ancient tombs have been unearthed with countless valuable burial artifacts, such as those in the WWII tomb site or the tomb of Hai Hun Ho. These ancient tombs have revealed an astonishing amount of priceless treasures. However, if you ask which tomb has the heaviest coffin, the most accurate answer would likely be the coffin from the tomb of Zang Ho Yi in Suizhou, Hubei. The discovery of Zang Ho Yi's tomb caused a nationwide sensation in China. Its scale is many times larger than that of the WWII tomb from the Han Dynasty in Changsha. Across an excavation area of 2,370 square feet, numerous national treasures were found, such as the Zang Ho Yi bell, a 16-detailed jade pendant of a dragon and phoenix, and a bronze crane with antlers. These are national treasures that attract attention in the archaeological world. However, aside from these artifacts, the enormous coffin found in Zang Ho Yi's tomb also amazed experts. The coffin found in the tomb was enormous. After measurement, the archaeological team could hardly believe their eyes when they saw that it weighed a staggering 9 tons. This weight is shocking, and it is the heaviest coffin ever found in an ancient tomb. Many questions arise. How could people in that era, with limited scientific knowledge, move such a heavy coffin? It was a difficult task, and even today the team had to use multiple cranes to move it out. During the excavation, an 8-ton crane was used to lift the coffin, but it did not move, and the crane's tail was lifted instead. The coffin itself weighs 9 tons, and just the lid alone weighs 2 tons. Truly astounding. Notably, one side of the coffin has a small door, believed to be the passage for the soul of Zang Ho Yi to enter and exit. The owner of the tomb, Zang Ho Yi, was the king of the Zhang Kingdom, also known as the Sui Kingdom, a vassal state during the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods. According to historical records, the Zhang Kingdom was a small country located next to the mighty state of Chu. Fearing that the king of Chu might destroy his kingdom at any time, Zang Ho Yi would annually present gold, precious jewels, and many beautiful women to the king of Chu. However, after Zang Ho Yi died from illness, his descendants had no more valuable items to offer to the state of Chu, which led to the destruction of the Zhang kingdom by the king of Chu. Furthermore, archaeological and historical studies have revealed that Zang Ho Yi was actually a very cowardly individual. The cultural relics unearthed from his tomb bear his markings, but many items also show signs of modification. For example, on Zang Ho Yi's bronze dish, experts discovered the name of his grandfather, but Zang Ho Yi had altered it and engraved his own name instead. This was an act of filial disrespect in ancient times. What's even more tragic is that, besides the 9-ton coffin, 22 other coffins were found in Zang Ho Yi's tomb. Of these, 21 coffins were for young women, the oldest of whom was only 26 years old, and the youngest was about 13. The tallest girl was about 5 feet 3 inches, and the shortest was just over 4 feet 7 inches. In addition, one of the coffins contained the remains of a dog, presumably Zang Ho Yi's beloved pet. Were these 21 girls buried with Zang Ho Yi, or did they die for some other reason? Experts suggest it is highly likely that they died alongside Zang Ho Yi. This practice of human sacrifice is a deeply disturbing custom that continued into the Qing dynasty. The warship graveyard. In 1945, the largest naval battle of World War II occurred in the Chuuk Lagoon in the Pacific Ocean, shaking the world. At the time, a large Japanese fleet was stationed there. The U.S. military carried out an attack on the Japanese fleet in the Chuuk Lagoon. As a result, after more than 3 days of fierce attacks, over 60 warships and 275 Japanese aircraft were sunk. For many years, these warships and aircraft remained submerged underwater. Many pieces of military equipment from the ships and aircraft, such as fuel tanks, bomb fragments, weapons, and everyday items used by sailors, also rest in this area. A gas mask, corroded by seawater, can be found at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Over time, the wrecks of these military vehicles have rusted. Today, this burial ground attracts many adventurous tourists who come to dive and explore the war relics. In fact, many people consider this site to be a unique and mysterious underwater museum. The 800-million-year-old corpse in a marble coffin. Russian scientists have confirmed that the female body found in the mysterious marble coffin discovered in the Kemerovo region of Russia is at least 800 million years old. This discovery is set to overturn much of what we know about human history. The story begins in September 1969 in the village of Rozovchik-Tsulskago in the Kemerovo region of Russia. While working at a coal mine more than 230 feet deep, miner Karnalkov accidentally discovered a marble coffin, intricately decorated with exquisite patterns. The coffin was immediately brought to the surface to be opened, but the surrounding area had become petrified like a mummified piece of meat, which created significant challenges during the excavation process. Inside the coffin was a strange and beautiful woman's body, lying in a pool of pinkish liquid. The woman appeared to be about 30 years old, with large, round blue eyes, typical of European features. Her hair was slightly curly, and her pale hands had neatly trimmed nails. She was wearing a white lace dress that reached her knees, with short sleeves embroidered with flowers. She looked as though she were merely sleeping. Those who witnessed the scene were shocked. On her head was a black metal box with a rectangular end and a circular end, something resembling a mobile phone, measuring about 4 by 10 inches. Later, the locals referred to her as the Tsulski Princess. After about 10 to 15 hours, the coffin was opened for everyone to see. The entire village rushed to see this strange entity. However, within less than 24 hours, the discovery was reported to the local authorities. Firefighters, the military, and local militia all confirmed the event. By 2:00 p.m. that day, a helicopter arrived to take the coffin away, and the area was declared potentially contaminated, with spectators being dispersed. The authorities then sealed off the location and isolated everyone who had come into contact with the coffin, even those who had been standing nearby. The story is recounted by the villagers. Few people believed them at first, but once you begin to look deeper, you'll notice many strange details. The coffin was transferred to the helicopter, but because it was too heavy, they decided to remove the liquid to lighten the load. Once the liquid was pumped out, the body began to darken right before their eyes. Therefore, the liquid was poured back in, and the darkness quickly disappeared. After a minute, the woman's cheeks turned rosy again, and her body looked as fresh as someone still alive. 5 days later, an elderly professor from Novosibirsk came to report preliminary findings from their laboratory. The professor stated that this discovery would overturn much of what we know about human history. When Soviet scientists revealed their findings, the scientific community was stunned. According to the professor, the coffin was at least 800 million years old. The woman was older than the coal that had formed around her coffin. This completely invalidated Darwin's theory of evolution. To preserve the theory of evolution, some opinions suggested that she might have been an alien. However, genetic analysis of the woman's body showed that her genes were consistent with modern humans. Scientists have said, "Today our bodies are very similar to our ancestors from 800 million years ago. There is no such thing as evolution." Moreover, the fabric she wore was completely unlike anything seen in modern clothing. The scientists have yet to identify the components of the pinkish blue liquid, but some of its properties resemble those of onions and garlic. As for the metal box, professors have not made any statements yet, and it is still under investigation. However, the level of scientific knowledge from the civilization of the time when this woman lived might have been far superior to our own. Evolution is the gradual change of an organism's body over time. Darwin once declared that all living organisms evolved from a common ancestor. If Darwin's theory were correct, we should be able to find fossil intermediaries showing the evolution of one species into two or more new species. We should also be able to find new species emerging in nature. But in reality, this has not occurred, and the story of the Tusulski princess sends us a message that humanity may have existed much longer than what is written in textbooks. The history of human existence still holds many mysteries. The mysterious tiny mummy. In June 1934, two gold prospectors in the San Pedro Mountains stumbled upon a small cave buried deep in thick layers of rock. As the dust began to settle, the explorers made an astonishing discovery: a well-preserved skeleton that appeared to belong to a tiny person. While the origins of the tiny being remain a mystery, Native American tribes are known for their myths about small beings, or Nameriga, tiny spirits. In some stories, these small people possessed magical powers or healing abilities, and they were believed to be part of a fierce tribe that attacked the indigenous peoples of the Americas with poison-tipped arrows. Scientists soon flocked to the area to investigate the truth behind the tiny mummy, dubbed Pedro, who sat at only about 6.7 inches tall and stood at an estimated height of 13.8 inches. Clearly, this was not an ordinary skeleton. Extensive testing was conducted on the strange mummy of Pedro. First, they examined the physical evidence. Pedro was found sitting cross-legged on a small rock ledge inside the artificial cave, with bulging eyes and a flat skull. Pedro was remarkably well preserved, to the point where even his fingernails were visible, covered with a thick substance on his head, which was clearly a preservative fluid. His flat nose, full teeth, and wrinkled brown skin gave him the appearance of an elderly man. In the years following Pedro's discovery, scientists conducted more invasive tests. They used X-rays to attempt to uncover the mystery. Some anthropologists initially concluded that the skeleton belonged to an infant. However, others argued that it was the skeleton of an adult, possibly aged between 16 and 65 years. X-ray images showed sharp teeth and the presence of food in the stomach, possibly raw meat. Particularly, the photos also revealed that Pedro had likely suffered a violent death, with broken bones, a damaged spine, and a fractured skull. Many speculated that this might be evidence of a goblin-like race, similar to the beings mentioned in the local indigenous legends, or perhaps even proof of an extraterrestrial creature. It remains difficult for many to comprehend how such a tiny being could possibly have been an adult, and this mystery still perplexes scientists today as further investigations continue. 5,100-year-old irrigation system. After nearly 3 years of excavation and research, Chinese archaeologists recently uncovered large-scale irrigation systems built for flood control at the Ling site. This discovery provides crucial evidence for studying the formation and development of prehistoric societies. It is known that the Ling site is where the Ling culture was first discovered and named. Located in the Zhanghan Plain in the middle reaches of the Yangtze River, this site is an important archaeological location that proves the origins of the culture in this region. After 3 rounds of excavations since the 1950s, from 2015 onwards, with approval from the State Administration of Cultural Heritage, the Hubei Provincial Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology and related units have continued archaeological work at this site. According to Chinese archaeologists, in the northeastern part of the site, the Hongjialing Dam includes elements such as a water dam, water storage area, irrigation area, and flood discharge route. The Hongjialing Dam was built on the east-west branch of the Qingmu River. This dam was made from earth, with a top height of about 6.6 feet, a width of approximately 43 feet, and a base width of about 89 feet, stretching 590 feet long. To the east of the dam was the water storage area, covering an area of about 2.3 acres, and to the west was the irrigation area, covering about 1 acre. The plant remains found in the excavation show that prehistoric rice fields existed in the area. The flood discharge route was located to the north of the water storage area, about 85 feet wide, with a sloped terrain, higher on the south and lower on the north. Mr. Tao Yang, a researcher from the Hubei Provincial Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology, stated that based on the excavated artifacts and dating data, the earliest construction of the dam dates back 5,100 to 4,900 years ago. It is the earliest and most well-preserved irrigation system discovered in China to date. Archaeologists believe this discovery marks a shift in prehistoric people's approach to flood control, from passive flood management to active flood control, representing a significant leap from adapting to nature to reshaping nature itself. The Mummies of San Bernardo. Surrounded by the Andes Mountains, a town named San Bernardo in Colombia is famous for a mystery that no other place has. In 1957, a flood caused a collapse in the cemetery area, forcing the management to relocate the graves to a new site. During the exhumation process, they were astonished to find that many of the bodies had not decomposed, despite being buried there for a very long time. One of the people involved in the exhumation, Eduardo Cifuentes, reported this to the authorities. Subsequent tests revealed that these bodies had not only been naturally mummified, but their clothes were also in excellent condition. While other bodies in the cemetery had decomposed to the point of only leaving bones, these bodies appeared as though they had just been buried, even though there was no evidence of embalming. The theories proposed to explain this phenomenon mostly revolve around the local diet, which included unique fruits known as guatila and balu, as well as the area's weather and altitude. However, these theories did not explain why the clothes of the mummies remained intact or why San Bernardo was the only town in the region to have this mummification phenomenon. Currently, some of the mummies are on display at a museum. Aside from placing them in glass cases, the museum does not take any additional preservation measures, but the San Bernardo mummies remain intact and have not decayed. Do you see? These archaeological discoveries not only change the way we understand history, but they also open up unsolved mysteries. Each discovery contains fascinating stories, pieces of evidence of ancient civilizations that science is still striving to uncover. No matter how horrifying or unbelievable they may seem, they all make scientists reflect and seek new clues. With the advancement of technology, we hope that in the future, we will have a better understanding of these mysteries. What about you? What are your thoughts on today's video topic? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to the channel to continue watching the latest videos. For now, goodbye and see you next time.